Welcome to People Who Perform, the Real Estate Careers Podcast. Each episode will bring you conversations from business leaders and up-and-coming stars in the commercial real estate industry in Canada. Our guests will share their unique career journeys, passions, and advice on what it takes to be successful in this industry. This podcast is brought to you by Highview Partners, connecting people who perform in Canadian real estate.
Welcome to the Real Estate Careers Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Costello, and today I'm joined by Jeff Kennedy, Chief Financial Officer at Troika Developments in Kelowna. Jeff has built a diverse and fast-moving career. With a BA from Queen's, Jeff's real estate career began in brokerage before moving into asset management, then into investments, and ultimately stepping into the CFO role at Troika last November. In our conversation today, we'll explore Jeff's career journey, life in the Okanagan with Troika, and what it's like working alongside his twin brother. Jeff, it's great to have you here. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Richard. I was reflecting this morning on how long we've known each other. I don't think it's certainly longer than 5 years. It might be almost 10 years, actually. So
it might be.
It's great to reconnect, and of course, always nice to see you, and excited to talk a little bit about my journey and our business.
Awesome. Well, no, thanks for joining us. So we'll start with just, as I like to do, get a bit of the background, the kind of more formative career years. So you took a generalist path at university. What drew you to explore commercial real estate in the first place?
Yeah, I think for most folks at university, they don't really talk much about real estate, or certainly commercial real estate and development. There's accounting, job fairs kind of are a dime a dozen, if you will. And so the exposure that I had was really through a teammate on the hockey team at Queen's, a gentleman who I've since become really good friends with and stayed close with. His dad was a commercial real estate broker out of Calgary, doing office leasing. And I grew up in a small town in northern BC. So, we were having the discussion, what are you doing next summer? And he's like, oh, I'm going back to work with my dad. And, tell me about that. What does that look like? And that was like a totally foreign thing to me. I didn't know that there were real estate agents that just did commercial. So that was kind of my first, I think, exposure or the aha moment that, okay, that's an interesting career path. And really from there, right out of university, pursued brokerage and followed a similar path to that buddy of mine who initially, I guess, introduced me to it.
Okay. So I mentioned in your intro a couple of the different areas of the business that you've worked in, but perhaps you can walk us through your career journey so far, starting in brokerage, and it'd be good to hear like what guided some of your moves.
Sure. Yeah. So my very first job out of university, I worked for Avison in Ottawa, doing a little bit of everything. I started on an industrial leasing team, and then ended up working with a couple of guys who were highly focused on technology leasing and sales in Canada. And really that second group that I worked with got me exposure to what I always thought at the time when I was in brokerage was the dark side, but it was actually the side that I liked, which was the developer owner side. And we got to, hang and correspond with some folks who, were leaders or senior leasing folks at some REITs or some large institutional ownership groups. And so that led me to an asset management job in Toronto. At the time, it was a company called Greystone Managed Investments, who had a very large, well-established portfolio, but were building out an asset management function. So went in there. It was a really small team initially. I think we had over 30 assets that just kind of appeared around the same time that I started, and two other senior gentlemen had started. And frankly, from there, had a craving to get back out west. Took a job working for Hunger for Properties in Vancouver. That kind of flowed nicely into COVID. And my now wife lived in Kelowna, so I was spending some some time going back and forth. And when COVID happened, Kelowna kind of became home base, and really just fell in love with everything that Kelowna has to offer. It's really a Four Seasons paradise, and was a positive lifestyle change at the time. I look back on that 2020 year in particular as being really, really tough professionally. I think our industry was certainly really challenged, as others were. Um, and I think come like the summer of 2020, I was like, I think I was borderline career change, probably. But met with a bunch of folks locally and talked about, kind of my vision and what was important to me professionally, and got an opportunity at Troika. So I joined in October of 2019, and have been really fortunate to work alongside Renee and Brad ever since. And they've, um, given me more than enough opportunity. And I think we've been fortunate to have a period of growth in a region that's experienced a tremendous amount of change coming out of the pandemic. So it's been really good.
Okay. This is a bit of a theme through our conversation here, in terms of your sort of meteoric rise to the top, Jeff. But what have been your most effective sources of learning and education during those years that you moved from brokerage to asset management to investments? Like how obviously you can learn from your peers, you can learn from the work that you're doing, but what are the ways were you sort of soaking it all up?
Yeah, good question. I think first and foremost, it is the peers. It's the people that you go to work with every day. And I look at all three of the places that I worked at before here, and many of those people I've individually reached out to, and thanked them, because I don't think I did enough at the time. And so I would say that's the number one thing. I was really fortunate to work with some really great people, very talented at their individual crafts, and frankly very willing to kind of share their expertise and lend a hand to somebody who was curious and wanted to grow within the business. And I think like everybody in this industry, I think there is a tightness. I think people like to spend time with each other. Many of my good friends are industry people, and that dinner in Vancouver, that's a catch-up dinner, inevitably ends up being a discussion about some type of asset class or something that's happening in the real estate world, and that flows into the Toronto Real Estate Forum or ICSC and Whistler. And I think I've been surrounded by a bunch of people who were excited by a relationship, and I've really focused on building good relationships. So when you get to that kind of trial and error where you are learning and where you are trying to get better, and you have somebody that you can pick up the phone and call, that's been really beneficial. And I look at, some of our younger team members who, maybe have only worked here or are new in their career and don't have as many of those relationships. It can be tougher to figure things out, and it can be tougher to find out, hey, well, what should we do here? What's industry standard? What's best practice? What are other people doing? And, although I've worked at a few shops, I still stay in touch with a lot of those folks, and they're good about picking up the phone when I need something.
Yeah, and I think it also speaks to the merits of working in a variety of different kind of employment. Like when you work for an institutional investment manager, kind of a private equity real estate group like Hungerford, it's just different perspectives, isn't it? And if you only stay with one group, you kind of only know that world.
Yeah, you learn, or you see kind of what worked and what didn't work. And I think that's mostly on the people side. I think everyone in real estate is always starving for innovation and trying to figure out better processes, better ways of doing things. And so I look back at the opportunities that I've had. Some of them were shorter than others, but all contributed to what I think and hope, and what I hope other people think about me is just a well-rounded perspective on what is real estate. I don't think that I necessarily excel at any area in particular. I think what I try to bring to the table is a well-rounded perspective, which has really been shaped by some great experiences and some great folks that I've got to work with.
Yeah. Okay. Well, turning to Troika, so for listeners who may not be familiar with Troika, and I dare say it could be most of them, could you give us an overview of the company, its history, perhaps the types of projects you're working on?
Sure. So Troika is a Kelowna-based developer builder, opened up in 2001. So we're in our 25th year of business. Renée Merrifield was the founder of the company. And at the time, I think really was looking to do things a little bit differently than what she had observed or participated in the past. And that was a focus on the people and a focus on sustainability, and not just environmental sustainability, but building a business where we can employ people in a construction business that, we're happy to keep our folks around rather than moving them on after a job is done. And so Troika mostly is in the multifamily space. So about 80% of what we're working on today is purpose-built rental. We have a portfolio of projects from BC to Saskatchewan that totals a little over $1.1 billion across 16 projects. So over the course of the last 5 years in particular has been a period of significant growth, like very significant growth. I think when I started, our total development pipeline was right around 300 million, and we've with the addition of the MLI Select program for construction, certainly some massive population growth, and frankly just more excitement around real estate of all types in Kelowna. We've rode that wave and continue to really be drivers in the rental space in particular. A big difference maker and a big thing that I wasn't used to when I started was having integrated construction, and our identity is a development company, but the fabric of what we do every day is that of a construction company, I believe. So many of our 65 staff are on the construction side, and being able to be that close to the execution aspects of the business has been really exciting, and I think has been a huge source of our growth. The ability to control development and construction in a time frame when both are very difficult.
So, Jeff, you started at Troika as Director of Investments and are now CFO. So what does a typical week look like for you, if there is one?
So today I oversee two work groups. So the first is the investments function, which is really all things acquisitions, partnerships, and project finance, so debt and equity. And then the second work group is our accounting work group. So that's all the day-to-day activities of a business of our size, from payroll to accounts payable to accounts receivable. I am not an accountant by trade. I'm not a trained accountant, so I'm very fortunate to be working with a really talented director of finance and financial controller that really spearhead that side of things. And so what does a typical week look like? It's probably 65% on the investment side and 35% on the more traditional accounting activities, I guess. So we're still very active on acquisitions and particular partnerships. So, spending a lot of time these days meeting with our partners, quasi investor relations type activities, and also working on any new deals. And then the project finance side, in particular on the debt side today, where annually CMHC is changing the rules. We spend a lot more time on that than I think we thought we would, because it is so tricky. I'm fortunate to be surrounded by a great team, some with more experience than others. And we talk often about, on the financing side, there's no playbook for some of it. We're truly, figuring it out on the fly. When CMHC, I think this year it was the middle of July when they decided, hey, we're changing how we do things. We had to go back to the drawing board on some stuff. So I'm proud of the resilience that takes, but it does make up a big part of my week.
And what would you say has been the most significant adjustment from stepping from a director of investments role into, I think you were VP of investments, but now CFO? What have been the big changes?
Yeah, I think it's the added responsibility that comes with the leadership role. for anything financial that happens within our business, the buck really stops with me. And, I think to do a good job with that responsibility, you have to be willing to make bold decisions. So, you know, the biggest adjustment is probably just that it can be, we lean on each other as a leadership team, and we lean on the rest of our staff. But at the end of the day, you got to sleep at night and you got to make the decision on some things, and that over time, you get better at it. And I would say, I think I had some opportunities early on, and I'm getting more comfortable with that. And frankly, running a business like ours we're in a huge growth stage in an already very dynamic development and construction industry. We're making decisions and then we're going back, we're changing them. And it's similar to the financing. There is not really a playbook. So the level of diligence and time and energy that goes into the operational elements and the responsibility that we have to continue to run a healthy organization, there's a lot there, and certainly keeps me busy.
Yeah. And you work directly with the founder, Renée Merrifield. How would you describe her leadership style and the culture that she's built at Troika?
Yeah, Renée, Renée and I are very close, and she's a huge fan of mine, I think, and I'm a huge fan of hers, and we have a really dynamic leadership style, and certainly she is the visionary. Renée is always optimistic. There's nothing here that we could take on that Renée wouldn't believe that we could do, and we love that about her, and she really is the glue and the drive for that reason. And I complement that with some of the financial realities at times, but she really is, she sets the tone for the organization. We have a ongoing dialogue around the senior leadership table about growth and trying to have smart growth. And I think the reality is with someone like Renée, who is as passionate and motivated as her, we're not going to get to a level where we're happy. The foot's going to be on the gas for as long as I'm here and as long as she's here.
That's awesome. And you also work alongside your twin brother. So how did that come about, and what's it like?
Yeah. Years of recruiting, that's for sure. I've lived here for now 5 years, and over the course of those 5 years, he was, continued to develop a really great career as a lawyer at a big shop in Vancouver. And he'd come up and play golf, and we'd go wine tasting, and he'd stay over, and it just constantly trying to, I think, describe to him the merits of a place like Kelowna. And I think I fell into it slightly differently because I was, I think, looking for a career change and was at a time when I really needed that to happen. And eventually that's where Brendan was. And at the same time, we were looking to fill a role, in particular on the finance side, like the amount of time and energy that our external counsel puts into, getting one financing done or getting one acquisition done. It's a huge amount of work, and it's only getting more difficult with things like AML and other requirements. So being able to add Brendan and the horsepower that he has been really great for the organization. And then personally, it's the coolest professional thing that I've gotten to do. Being able to come to work every day and do it with him has been really cool.
And he is your identical twin brother. I was kind of looking at your website before setting up our initial calls, and I was joking with you that you make him wear the glasses. I'm not sure if he needs to wear them.
That's right. The poor guy, he can't go anywhere in Kelowna without mass confusion. So he's settling in. He moved up here in May. It's been really good. We showed up at an event yesterday dressed wearing the exact same thing.
Okay.
So that will continue, and we will continue to confuse folks around here. So it's all good.
That's funny.
Are you looking for a specialized recruiting partner to connect you with the people who perform in commercial real estate? At Highview, we partner with some of Canada's leading real estate companies. From national landlords, institutional investors, REITs and service providers, to local developers, third parties and private family businesses. We are passionate about the Canadian real estate industry and enjoy discussing what's happening in the market. We also provide insight and advice on hiring trends, compensation benchmarking, career roadmaps, networking opportunities, and much more. Visit us at highviewpartners.ca or contact us directly to discover how we can connect you to people who perform.
And I want to turn to sort of why Kelowna, the market, lifestyle and things. You mentioned golf and wine tasting, but just broadly, like what's been your experience of living in Kelowna?
Yeah, Kelowna is so unique. Like it is, I think it's unlike anywhere in the country. I always joke whether I'm in Toronto at the Forum or ICSC or whatever, I need to be on like the City of Kelowna economic development payroll because I really believe in our market. And we have, I think, a very not only unique geography but a unique offering here. We're 5 hours, 4 hours from Vancouver. We're 8 hours from Calgary. We have a temperature and climate here in the summer that attracts a lot of folks to come and visit. And in the winter, we have great skiing and other outdoor activities. So it truly is a four-season paradise here. When I first decided to move up here and took the job, I think some of my colleagues were razzing me a little bit and saying, oh, you're just kind of taking a retirement job up in Kelowna. And what's happened in our development industry and construction industry here in the last 5 years, I don't think anybody really knew that was going to be possible and it would grow to be what it is. And there's still a lot of room to continue to grow. So yeah, Kelowna is just such a unique place. The way it was described to me once from one of our lawyers who had relocated from another big center that working in a place like Kelowna, you get these like kind of micro vacations. And I know our shop and other shops in town, we're working as hard as we were, whether it was in Vancouver or Toronto, and we're putting in the same amount of time. But the difference is we can go home at 7:30 and have dinner on the beach that's 6 minutes from your house and take advantage of all the things that it has to offer here. So it's been a really positive transition. I think what was initially lifestyle motivated has ended up being bigger and better professionally than what I would have imagined at the time.
Yeah, I like that. My mini vacation. That's I can see how that would be an important thing. So Kelowna and I guess the Okanagan in general, like certainly on the residential side, really took off during COVID, post-COVID, and I think there was this perhaps hope that folks could be working from home a little bit more, and so yeah, you could live in a place like Kelowna or Penticton and keep your job in a bigger city. I mean, a lot of that's kind of changed now. So I guess like wondering what's the current state from your perspective of the Kelowna market? Like what do you see as the most significant reasons to be hopeful about its future?
We're getting younger, I think at the third or fourth fastest rate of the Canadian CMAs. So big kind of demographic shift. So yeah, it was absolutely the case. People were relocating here because they could work, live, and play. And I mean, I think specifically work remote. So that was a huge trend, and that definitely has tapered off. We're seeing less of that. But at the same time, I think it's provided a period of growth that will be the foundation for more. And a city like Kelowna, our surrounding area, I think we're roughly 240,000 people in the CMA here. You need that foundation to be able to grow things like employment, and you need developers like us to be able to build homes for those people and build places for those businesses. So really has a snowball effect. If you look at our market today and you drive over the bridge from West Kelowna, the number of high rises that you'd see in 2025 versus what you saw in 2019 is very significant difference. And we're starting to, I think, graduate from a big town to a small city. The university has done a fantastic job of continuing its growth trajectory despite some of the headwinds on international students and other things. They're building a big campus downtown, which is only going to add to the region. So we're very optimistic about Kelowna. There's some realities here that are likely not going to change, which is the proximity to the lake and the weather, and both of those things mean that this is a desirable place to live. We don't have to convince people of the lifestyle merits. We have to make sure that they have jobs and that they have places in Kelowna where they can have careers. So if there's anything to focus on as a region, it's continuing to prioritize job creation and attracting businesses to our region. I think by the time you clock that, oh, maybe we're a little light on jobs, it's probably too late. So being really proactive there. And then specifically on the real estate side, we're very bullish on rental housing. We're going through a period of a significant amount of new supply that'll be coming online through the end of this year and then early next year, which is going to have an impact on performance. But it really is a temporary condition. What will be delivered in 26 and 27 will be a very small fraction of what was delivered in 25. So we believe that the fundamentals are going to return right back to where they were before. And frankly, the demand for rental housing in our region, because of the characteristics that it has, will always exist. It's just making sure that balance remains. I think on the single family side, we've seen some pretty, I don't know if they're tectonic shifts entirely, but there's very little being delivered on the single family side. And we had a huge run up in prices. And I think because of the interest in our region and the types of folks that are moving here, housing prices have been fairly buoyant. Last month, they're going up again. So it's we're a little bit insulated from maybe what's happening elsewhere, certainly in Vancouver and Toronto, where you see some pretty significant decreases in the value of homes or condos. We've been kind of protecting values pretty well, with the exception of a couple categories. And that will, frankly, I think, set us up for what's to come in 2028 and beyond, which I think in our office, we believe will kind of look similar to that 2022-23 period, where there was a lot of growth. A lot of people were attracted to living here. And then the last point I'll make is, while I think our real estate market has some different and unique characteristics to other markets, we're not immune to the macroeconomic things. So Kelowna is a market that thrives when the economy is strong. And I think we have a lot of proud BC and interior BC businesses that love to do business and have their staff work and live in Kelowna. So we're looking for policymakers to continue to make it better to do business in our region, and that will have a direct benefit on the real estate market here.
And see, this podcast is all about real estate careers. It's worked out really well for you, Jeff, but I know it's challenging. Like I'm recruiting in Kelowna for several years, and it is tough to get people to make the move unless they have family, friends there. So I mean, this is maybe a little bit of a nod to working for yourselves, but would you recommend Kelowna as a place to build a career in real estate? What are the trade-offs compared to Vancouver or Toronto?
Yeah, great question. I think what people see is a smaller market. And so I think if you're an asset manager in Vancouver, does that mean that there's an asset management role in Kelowna? There might not be. But what I know about our market is that person who's the kind of jack of all trades that's willing to take on more than what maybe their job description says, and really believes in themselves, those people are always going to have an opportunity in Kelowna. They're always going to have an opportunity at our shop. What you get in Kelowna, I think, is the ability to be a slightly bigger fish in certainly what is a much smaller pond. And I think, certainly as I was looking to grow my career, there was an attractiveness of that. And you asked earlier about part of the recruiting process for my brother. It's like, hey, you might have to bet on yourself, kind of. And if you're going to show up to work every day and do a great job and be a difference maker, there's a lot of opportunity here. Certainly our business is 100% or as close as you can get to a meritocracy. The folks in our shop who do a great job, are highly committed to what we're doing, are going to have ample opportunities. And I think, the last piece is comp. Everyone has heard of the sunshine tax, and while I still think that exists, I think the gap is shrinking. And I think groups like us and some of our competitors in town who are not just developers in the Kelowna context, but have aspirations to be bigger players in Western Canada or throughout the province, know that it's going to take a little bit of stretch to acquire the best talent. So I think what I've seen in the last little while is a real willingness across the board in our industry to identify the fact that if we want top talent from Vancouver or Calgary, we need to pay them like that. And I think that's created a better environment. We have, if you're coming from Calgary, you're still looking at our real estate prices and I think wondering how that fits into your lifestyle. If you're coming from Vancouver, it's still significantly less. And I think we've done really good things like identifying some talent from out of markets and helping their partners find a job and doing different things like that to be able to bring the best talent forward. So I'm passionate about Kelowna, and I think there is a big opportunity here, and it doesn't need to be viewed as because you're leaving a primary market that then you're going to a secondary employer. I think you can come to Kelowna, do some really great business and work on some really exciting things, with groups that have a growth mindset and also a big vision of what it could look like.
Okay, Jeff, that's awesome. So we've just got a few quick fire questions for you and we'll wrap up. So what's your go-to restaurant in Kelowna?
Home block at Cedar Creek Winery.
What's your favorite dish there, Jeff?
It's all very good, but they do a particular dessert called the sticky toffee pudding, which is fantastic. It's probably the top dessert in town.
Wow, that's a throwback. Are you getting some custard with that?
It's like ice cream with like a brownie that's floating in toffee. It's Richard, you'd have to run 10 kilometers the next day.
I kind of grew up on sticky toffee pudding, but I think my mum would always give us the option, ice cream or custard, and it's always custard. But what's the best way to spend a Friday night after work?
Yeah, I mean, our Fridays in the summer look a lot like a barbecue and spending time by the pool at home.
Okay.
We're really lucky. Friday at Kelowna, we don't have like there's not like a huge like dining culture. Like we love to host and have people over, and that's an exciting part of our summers. And then the winters are a little bit more quiet. Usually a Friday night for us looks like early bed because we're getting up at 5 to drive up to Big White.
Yeah, no, that sounds fun. Penticton's kind of become the beer capital of almost of BC, I would say. It's crazy. But you've got good coffee, obviously the wine, and you do have breweries. But what's your sort of go-to? What are you doing out of those three?
I think it's always wine. I mean, not before 5 p.m. usually, but certainly a nice Okanagan red wine would be the top of my list. You're right. We are fortunate in all of those categories, and but if I had to pick one, it'd be red wine.
Fair enough. So you mentioned that you were contemplating this career change. So if you didn't find Renée and Troika, like what do you think you'd be doing today?
I think there's a non-zero chance that I'd be in the car business like my parents were.
Okay.
I think they were pretty adamant early on that both Brendan and I should explore some other things. So I mean, maybe that for my buddies in town who play golf with me, definitely not pro golf. So yeah, probably something in real estate. Maybe like custom home builder or something like that.
Okay. No, that's awesome. All right, Jeff, I'm going to let you crack on. You're a busy man. Thanks for sharing. Really appreciate it. Good to chat.
Thank you, Richard. Much appreciated.
All right.
Thank you for listening to People Who Perform, the Real Estate Careers podcast brought to you by Highview Partners, a talent search and recruitment firm focused exclusively on Canadian real estate. If your real estate team is looking to find the best next hire, or if you're ready to make the best next move in your career, then reach out to Highview Partners today. Follow us on LinkedIn and visit us at highviewpartners.ca.